All right, we are recording.
Okay.
Can you just mute yourself?
Call to order the Highland Park Board of Education, regular hybrid meeting for September the 12th. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Do we have an echo?
She's working on
I'm
it.
sorry, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Having trouble getting to the end. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Star Ledger, and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. Linda, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Casaldon? Here. Ms. Cimarosti?
Not on yet.
No. Ms. Coleman? Ms. Gowan?
Yes, here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Ms. McFadden Nicola? Ms. Bruce?
Here.
Mr. Roslevich? Mr. Woodward?
Here.
Okay, we need to recess to executive session. Be it resolved pursuant to the Sunshine Act, NJSA 10:40-12 and 13. The Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss a personnel matter and the safety and security audit. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session in accordance with NJSA 10:40-13. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. So I make a motion to recess the executive session. A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, here we go. Session. I think I need a motion to reconvene to regular session. A second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're back. We'll go start with Pledge of Allegiance.
It's behind the
Oh, gosh.
poll, sorry, and then I have it up on Zoom for anybody at home. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start our meeting with the swearing in of our new student representatives. Linda?
Yes. I invited each of you with an oath of office. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say part of it and ask you to repeat after me. You can do that together. Okay, just bring the microphones closer to you so that your voices can be recorded. And then at the end, I'll ask you to sign your name. I have a set also that I'm going to sign. So we'll do a little swap so that you will end up with a copy to keep and we will have a copy for our clients. Okay. Okay. And to begin the oath, please repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm. I do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. And the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And to the governments established in the United States and this state. And to the government established in the United States and this state. Under authority of the people. Under the authority of the people. And I do affirm that I possess the qualifications prescribed by board policy. That I possess the qualifications prescribed by board policy for the office of a member of a board of education. For the office of a board. For the office of member of a board of education. For the office of member of a board of education. That I will faithfully, impartially, and justly. And that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office. perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability. According to the best of my ability. Welcome to the board.
Welcome, thank you for taking this on. We're gonna get a report from you actually in a few minutes. I think you already have a report for us. We'll do two things first. Communications, the board received two communications this month. On August 22nd from Jen Voorhees about the ski snowboarding club. And on September 7th from Ann Vardaman about policy 8601. No, that's on the agenda tonight, the policy. We'll move on to approval of minutes. We have minutes to approve from the virtual public regular meeting and executive session. That was August 22nd. I think we only met once in August, and those are our minutes. So I move that we accept those minutes. Were there any additions or changes or anything to those minutes? I assume not. I just forget to ask that. Okay. Do we need a roll call then?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Costello? Yes. Mr. Morosky?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan? Yes. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Correct.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Whipple?
Yes.
Okay. Now our new student representatives. Do you have a report for us?
From early in school, back to school night on this Thursday, starting 2 p.m. and until until September 29th and 30th, and the after school air meeting will be on October 6th. Also Title I family, Title I family information will be at October 11th at 8:30 for the media center. And lastly, the urban website is today with all important days. For Bartle Elementary School, the back to school night will be on Monday, September 19th at 6 p.m. Their whole school meeting will be on September 23rd. Their lead drill assembly will be on October 6th. Both there, October 10th to 14th. The walk to school day will be October 12th. Picture day, October 14th. Coffee with the principal and the Title I family information meeting will be October 15th. And the inclusion maker assembly will be October 20th. For the middle school, back to school night will be on September 20th, and the Title I information session will be on the 16th of the month at 1:30 in the high school auditorium. And picture day will be October 6th. The night rally will be October 21st, and also parents to conference will be October 25th through the 27th. And finally, for the high school, the Title I family information session will be on September 16th at 1:30 in the high school auditorium. The breakout afternoon will also be on September 15th, and 6 days will be September 19th and September 20th. Back to school night will be September 21st, and the start strong session will be the 21st to the 23rd of this month. Here, we will be here throughout the week. Follow honor inductions will be on October 7th at 10 a.m. in the Hall Rally in the afternoon. And finally, homecoming will be on October 7th at 7 p.m.
Thank you so much. Very, very thorough for your first reports. You know, and I just want to also add, if you ever have your own thoughts in the course of a meeting, I don't know, feel free to join in and share what you're thinking you're here for the perspective of students. So you're giving us some good information from the schools, but you can give us your personal thoughts if it comes up. Feel free. We're happy to hear it.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is more for Christina. Okay. The Title I parent information nights are, they're in the daytime at 1:30. Do we get parents coming out in the middle of the day?
We get more coming out in the middle of the day than we do at night.
Okay. We're working, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they can't leave their kids in the night.
Sorry?
Or maybe they can't leave their children, like if they're at night.
I mean, a lot of people work during the day.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do either one.
No, you can hear the problem.
Yeah. Any other questions for our student representatives? No? Okay, thank you.
There's one more thing, the homecoming band is October 8th at 7.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to board committee reports. And then after that, we'll have public comment. So Michelle's not here for curriculum instruction. Was there a meeting since our last meeting?
There was no meeting left.
Okay.
The agenda items are approval for bills from the team member. The approval the abolishment of the job description for job description number 2530, architect for Plaza, effective September 13, 2022. And item number 3 is the approval of the university graduate students for teaching internship and junior practical motivation for a student from Rutgers under the social emotional learning.
Great, thank you. Thank you for some of that. Equity and Excellence also is meeting next week, so, right, and Monique's not here, but I don't think there's a report there either. But we do have Mark here for Finance and Facilities, so you're on.
Well, thank you, Marilyn. I think I'm gonna take the mask off so you can hear me. The committee met on September 6th. I was there with Chris, Marilyn, Christina, and Linda. We went over a district safety assessment report. This report was approved months ago and funded.
Mark, I'm sorry, can you just speak it in the microphone?
Oh.
There's word at home that you have to speak a little bit more into the microphone for them to hear you at home. Better, Darcy, is that better?
It's really everybody on the periphery too. So if the folks on the sides aren't speaking into the mic, I think it's really hard for everybody online to hear.
Okay, so just make sure you speak right in your microphone.
Okay,
Thanks.
I will get close to it. So we met to discuss, we had a large agenda. We discussed a district safety assessment report, which was funded by different grant money contributions. Jason Richardson worked with the consultant. The name of the consulting firm is Porzio Consulting Services. They produced the report. The board has gotten a copy of the report, and the committee is working with the administration on a timeline to put into effect some recommendations that this consultant put into place. We reviewed the report, as I said previously to board members. If you would look at the, especially the timeline and the next page, very, very useful and interesting. We will be moving forward on doing many or most of those recommendations. We discussed free internet access. We've been providing free internet access using government funds provided for that purpose over the last 2 years during the pandemic. School was a good part of the time. School was remote. Linda presented us with the cost, which would be about $9,600 per year, and also told us we could allocate money that the district collects for insurance on equipment, on lease equipment, which some of which we use, but some of which is likely to be left over. We could put that money towards that $9,600. This would ensure that every student, as much as possible, meaning we can't force someone to take internet access, but any student who wants internet access and doesn't have it, if the family comes forward, we'll provide them with internet access. And it also means we don't have to make rules around homework for all of our students. In other words, you can't give homework that requires the internet because some students don't have it. And for this $9,600, all of our students could have internet access, and all work given out could be allowed to use the internet. We discussed the finance renewal of our one-to-one, mostly Chromebook access for all of our students, the loaners that the students get that are theirs while they're in the school. We have 1 more year left on our original leases, and we likely have 2 years left on equipment we purchased with the ESSER funds for the Irving, Bartle, and paraprofessional equipment. We discussed rolling new leases together for all the new equipment in both groups, costs versus the original lease purchase, which would be higher, and whether we could even scale back on tablets for Irving, if that would make a difference. So it would make some difference, but it's not clear how much. new equipment, as I said, would be more costly than the initial set of leases, but of course, this is really important work. Christina will have Stephen in our IT department check out some of the costs. And the possibility that the equipment that at the end of the lease purchase we own, whether we can call giving that equipment back as used equipment to get some rebate back from the leasing company towards our expenses. And the last thing I wrote in the report was this becomes more pressing as we develop our 2023 budget, but it's worth looking at now. We reviewed the out-of-district placements. This is special education students. And we realized that the numbers are coming in much lower than we had anticipated. In other words, less students are going out of district. This is good for a number of reasons. One reason is to keep the kids here. They don't have to go on a bus to the school. Another reason is it's very, very costly. But it's early in the year. You'll see in a second, the savings might be very significant, and often during the year, new students go into the program, and it costs us quite a significant amount of money. We reviewed our reserve accounts as of July 1st, and our capital reserve is quite a bit higher than it's ever been. A lot of that is due to the extra money we got from the government during the pandemic. We have over $1 million, $1.75 more or less $1 million in our capital reserve. But that can go very, very quickly as some things need work. Roofs. We have one planned a chiller, an air system for the high school, although that's being paid with ESSER money. So we have to be very careful and not use it all up in one place, as I've said many times in this report. Our maintenance reserve is about over 100,000, which is what it was last year. And our emergency reserve is 300,000, which is also higher than it's been. But again, emergencies come up and that money may be needed. At the moment, we're showing a large amount of savings versus budget. Part of that is due to the lower number of out-of-district placements, and another part of it is due to the government giving us over about $1 million in unexpected grant money against which we didn't, as I said, we didn't expect it at all. So we have quite a lot of money in hopefully in savings during the year. As I write, the money needs to be carefully preserved since it's early in the year and so many expenses are rising steeply. For instance, bus routes are now cost us a fortune. We budgeted for a lot, but they're likely to go up even higher. Our medical insurance is going up 10% more than we budgeted because the state imposes those numbers on us. So if we don't carefully preserve the money, we'll be back to wondering what programs we might want to cut, which has happened for so many years in this and other districts. There were no new policies. We did discuss lead in water fountains, and 3 fountains that Bartle had higher levels of lead. They were immediately closed. Chris asked some questions about the testing. The committee asked them more information from the testing company on why these passed 5 years ago, but failed now. For instance, do we need more frequent testing? And Christina and Linda will be following up on that, so we'll get a report from the testing company. And that's my long report. Coupled that with the shortest number of motions I've ever seen on a finance agenda. It's only 7 items. So before we go forward, anybody have questions on the finance committee report?
A couple, but I've been talking a lot. Anybody else?
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, go.
Well, first of all, I'm so delighted that we have the low cost internet for the free. Is it free or low cost? I'm sorry.
Free.
It's free. It's free.
I'm so grateful.
It's fabulous.
Can I suggest, I'm sure you already know, it'd be a really good idea to have the teachers like really push out that information, and have your parents call from the internet, talk to me after class, because otherwise I think kids are gonna be on phones, they have phones, some of their homework.
Yeah, so actually what we do is we pull the list from free and reduced and we automatically add them. And then we contact home and let them know how to access it. So they don't have to contact us. We automatically put them on and then call home. Or find somebody who can translate to call a parent or guardian and walk them through how to find the optimum Wi-Fi, where it is and how to connect.
That's incredible. I'm so glad you're doing it. Thank you. Hoping to have that for a really long time. A couple other things, how best was it led in Bartleham? Was it travel or just like a couple PBMs or whatever?
It was, I believe it was about double the, like, I think it's 15 parts per something, and it came in at 30 or maybe 8 and 15. It was higher. It was definitely higher.
It was above the minimum.
Yeah, it was about,
Yeah, and I know some like amounts above the minimum are not really that concerning. You know, the minimum is set pretty low. So does that mean, I mean, did we test everything with like, comes from the same pipes? Is that-
Chris had asked the same questions, and I think that's among the answers we're trying to get.
I see.
And I,
The report showed they had tested.
Make sure you're talking to the mic, please. I'm sorry.
The report showed they had done a lot of testing throughout the building, right?
Yeah.
Certain number, I forget
Yeah.
how many sites were tested.
They tested a lot of sites.
And those are the only 3, but still, but not, I mean, not only, I mean, it's significant that they were there.
I don't think anyone kind of, that are near those water fountains could be a call.
It may not be the pipes, it
No,
may
I-
be the fixtures or the parts within the water fountain fixture.
Good God, parts of the water fountain that have lead in them.
Yeah. lead solder,
Oh,
lead solder.
that's insane.
It's out, they're old. I mean,
Okay.
At the time they were made, that's.
It's not waiting, Jane. Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe that.
This is the way it is.
Oh, yeah, thank you for all that. What's other questions? Oh, $1 million in grant money. What do you think unexpected $1 million in grant money?
We got 850, if I have it right, 800, I can't believe I know this number. $859,000 through a federal mandate on states to give out money where we've been underfunded. And then we got 200 and some odd, 250,000, which was not as unexpected, but we had to apply for it, but they funded it completely for us to be educating students with IEPs. I think up to age 22. I may have that age
23, yeah.
22
yeah.
or 23.
Ready for the pandemic, they extended
Yeah.
their.
And so the bill from the legislature required us to educate the kids. But then it wasn't funded, but then they returned the funding to us. So it was actually more than $1 million, completely unexpected aid. I mean, the sad news is, as I've said, and I'm going to say, you're going to hear me saying it a lot this year, that money could disappear in the blink of an eye as they keep raising the insurance and the buses and every other thing that happens, or just lots of other reasons.
It
But
sounds like that, yeah,
thank goodness, is all I have to say.
I know.
You know how it's
Thank you
been.
for applying for the grant.
Yes.
So that, we use it for,
I think, Linda,
So what happens is we captured all the costs, we identified all the costs that were related to those specific students.
right,
And so we compiled that data and then provided that information to the state. So I work closely with the Ed Services Department to gather all that information and determine, what is applicable to each of those students. And so it's basically a reimbursement of costs we already incurred.
oh, okay.
but the,
It's a reimbursement of the last school year's costs. So because we got it now, we will be able to use it if we need to. Otherwise, it'll go into what some people would call surplus at the end of the year. The term surplus is a calculation, so it depends on whether it's actual surplus or something.
Yes.
and Linda, the 850 can also go into surplus.
That's the same kind of a thing. It's, I don't know, I think it's actually this year's state aid. It's additional aid for this year that we are able to appropriate if we need to.
That's great, thank you. There's just one other question, this is really remarkable about the dyslexia training that we gave to Sandra. What modality do we use for dyslexia?
Hey, you guys, Anne is like impossible to understand. So I don't know if it's that she's not using her mic or she's further away from the microphone.
She has a mask
I
on.
don't know.
But so if we can't understand her better, maybe if you guys could repeat her questions or something.
Sure.
Oh, I'm curiosity, are we using Ordinarium for dyslexia?
I believe we use the PAR screener.
What do we use for the actual, aren't there a couple of different?
Oh, programs.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. OG, yeah, we have, depending on, a student's IQ, we have a variety of programs that, match their readiness level.
I see, so it's not a unified.
Correct,
I
yeah.
see. I remember a couple of years ago, we talked about our Resilience tutoring that had some programs that we trained some of our teachers and reduced costs, we changed them tutoring after school. So I just, think there was a question whether that company used the same modality program, the same approach that we did, whether it was going to be.
Yes.
So are we still looking into that?
So because we've had an influx of federal money for professional development and to help with what they're terming as learning loss, we've been able to fund getting more teachers trained in OG and Wilson and some of those, resources and tools for our students that we haven't really needed to have the collaboration with Helping Hands anymore. So a lot more of our teachers are trained and ready to hit the ground running. Yeah.
Any other questions, Rob?
Yeah.
Did you have a-
Mark, can you just explain the Chromebook insurance policy again? Because we're still requiring the students to carry insurance on the Chromebooks. Right?
Well, I'm sorry, we don't requirement. It's not a requirement. It's an optional purchase.
Bridge between the ones that the students didn't purchase the insurance, or what are we insuring with this policy?
Oh, you mean I haven't gone through this yet. Number 5, you mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we insure all the devices that we have.
Mhm.
Now, you're asking as a side of what the parents are paying.
No. So number
Oh,
5
okay.
on here. So there's a 500 additional Chromebooks, I believe Bartle, from a Bartle fleet that weren't initially insured that we're now getting insured.
That's what this is.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Did I jump in that?
Go ahead.
All right. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to just briefly, it's only 7 items. It's all right. It's okay. No, everyone's so excited about finance. Everyone's so excited about finance. No. So we have the approval of our bill list for August 1st through 15th. We have the approval of the cafeteria bill list. It's very, very small. Approval of travel and related expense reimbursement reports. That's number 3. Approval of contractors for professional services. So that's the PD on dyslexia and the workshop for the Irving teachers. And I believe that's play-based learning, if my notes are right.
Teacher leader one.
Oh, Teacher Leader Academy. Quotes for this district Chromebook insurance, number 5, and we will, if we vote on it this evening in the affirmative, we will take the quote number 6 from Chromebook insurance coverage program from the Vivacity Tech in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then there is an approval of a non-public nursing services agreement for schools that are in the district, but they're non-public schools. The Children's House Montessori and the Rinas-based Yaakov School. So that's just pass-through money that we have to approve it. And that's the finance and facilities list. Very short tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mark?
Not anymore.
Okay. Okay, then Chris, you're up with personnel and communication.
So there were readings before they that. So on agenda item 6, basic donations, so part of the middle. Number 19, should say, yes, we would force the program, after school program. And number 20 should add service students in the middle school, special ed, and junior middle school special ed. So we met as a committee on August 29th and discussed in particular some staff positions that which the district is still having trouble filling. So it's it's a national issue. Just like to say thank you to everyone. So in terms of the agenda, items 1 through 5 are minor personnel adjustments. 6 and following are resignations. So we'd like to amend the arrow for Jenny Simon, Cynthia Sharp, and Leslie Jones and Scott Helton for their service. Sean Harrison is stepping down as the middle school basketball head coach. Thank you for doing that. Susan Adado is resigning effective October 1st, 2027 on the Florida after school position. Lori Stevenson is resigning in the school after school. 15 approval for professionals, 16 transfers, 17 job coaches. Like Kurt, for the Little and Gina Perez. 18 monthly approval. 19 approval of the foreign for school staff. 20 is the additional instructional assignments. And again, correction special and some things to those teachers who will also do that extra period. 21 extra hours for the night owl program. 22 extra hours for the secretary. Karen Hubbs. Change of hours 23. Schedule B positions 24. In particular, Arlington Burrell will be the soccer coach. Vines the assistant basketball coach, and Melissa Reese the chess coordinator. 25 overall volunteers, 26 yet between positions. Long list. I guess they each do one job. They each pay all 6 jobs. School translators 27. The handle care training 28. 29 additional hours for the parent meetings, and 30 additional hours for child study team. 31 the stipends for their professionals. 32 the training with dyslexia for. Foundations training number 33. The extra hours for the secretaries early, the 34, and for middle school 35, and the back to school 90, item 36. A longer list.
Yeah, you won that one. Questions for personnel? Okay.
Oh, Foundations is our phonics program that we use to supplement the work that we do in reading and writing instruction.
Any other questions? I lost my place, but I think we're
Policy.
policy. Okay. Martha, back to you.
Yep. Thank you. So we have 3 groups of policies. The first one is policy 1648 -13, which is the school employee vaccination requirements, which is not allowed nor mandated by the state any longer, so that's being abolished. Number 2 is one new policy, which I think went through Personnel Committee, 3270, on professional responsibilities. On number 3 is, a group of, 4 policies for second reading, and I think of interest, because we definitely have some community input from a parent on this one. Number 8601 on student supervision after dismissal. I just want to say 1 or 2 sentences about this. The policy as it stood, which came from, originated around 2015, was inconsistent with what we were doing in our schools. So the policy committee met and reviewed it, and we've come up with a set of policies to effectively say students from pre-K through grade 3 will be only allowed to be dismissed in the care of a parent or guardian or someone that parent or guardian designates to pick the child up. In 4th and 5th grade, a parent can opt out of that, and a student can walk home or on their own. And then in the middle and high school, students will be let to leave on their own, allowed to leave on their own, unless a parent requests that the student must be picked up. And then the school will follow that parent the guidance. So that's how we change that policy. Chris, thank you for giving us that document from the American Academy of Pediatrics, which makes, gives their take on what age is appropriate for students to walk home on their own. Which they, if you haven't read it, it's very interesting, 10 years old. And that's effectively 4th and 5th graders. So we kind of did that. We didn't take the boilerplate policy we get from the policymakers and the state. We actually, the administration actually came up with exactly what the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. So that's my report.
Just a follow-up on that 8601. The parent request was to allow.
Make sure you speak in the mic, I'm sorry.
The parent request for our consideration was to change the policy so that I believe 2nd and 3rd graders, or definitely 3rd graders, could walk home with the permission of the parent. And that was, and that parent said Metuchen and maybe some other districts started in the 3rd grade, where students could walk home with the permission of a parent, a written permission. So I don't know if anybody has any discussion on that. The policy can go forward as it is. If somebody felt, that they wanted to consider this change, we could amend the policy and move it forward. I think that's what Mark said the process would be. So it's up for discussion. I don't know if anybody feels one way or
I
another.
will move the policies, and if someone wants to amend that policy, after the policies are moved and seconded, you can apply, move an amendment, get it seconded, we vote on the amendment first, and then we vote on the policy. And
But now's a good opportunity to discuss it if anybody had a
well, I
strong
would
feeling.
simply say that after reading the expert, the person responsible for student travel, students leaving school and going home, saying that students under 10 are and some over 10 aren't equipped to be walking on their own. I had not much of an opinion until seeing that. So really, Chris, thank you. And after seeing that, I think it would be unwise to change the policy from the way you, and also that the administration recommended 4th and 5th grade. So and the principal of the school recommended that. So I think that's a wise course, and for just a whole lot of reasons.
Mark, can you clarify, how many siblings? Are they committed to walk home with the 4th and 5th graders at this point? Or are they?
It says their designee, and I doesn't say that the designee couldn't be an older child.
It can be an older child. Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, and that happens very frequently.
So, I mean, I have concerns, I thought that the concerns raised by the parents. Yeah, I honestly learned from the second meeting, and I hadn't thought about this, but when I, looked at the concerns, a couple of my mind changing, we said I hadn't thought about it before. I agree with the parent, actually. It seems to me that if a parent thinks that their second grade or their viral student is responsible enough and equipped to walk home, then that should be permitted. I understand we have concern about our children at any time, they're our kids. But I mean, like a parent probably has a better sense of whether, the kids could handle it. You might have one kid, one sibling who will be fine, and another sibling who's going to say, no, absolutely not. And this parent brought up a point about participation in after school activities that are provided by rec. So the rec department here does have some activities that are after school before any parents get home from work. So it kind of makes it almost possible for kids and parents who work to get to those if they're not on the walk home. Now, lowering the age for walking home will completely solve that, because some parents still aren't going to think their second graders responsible. So, those parents will have to come up with an alternative, unfortunately. But it seems like this would ease the burden on working parents. And it is an issue, when the town is offering a program and a child can't get to it, because we won't release them, even though the parent says, okay, you can release my child. I'm inclined to allow the parents to make the decision. I would want people to feel that that's, I would want to be able to do that if it's my kid. I'm not sure that I would have, second grade might have been really young for my kids, but I think I would have done it in third grade.
I think I did more in terms of the radius around the school.
Well, that's an issue, how far, right?
How far is the child walking? I would be very hesitant to approve a second or third grader to cross Raritan Avenue. From a traffic standpoint, you have this instance where North Fourth, and that is where I'm concerned. There are a lot of public complaints about traffic in the area, and even with pickup and alcohol. So with that complaints and with those safety concerns, I wouldn't establish a policy that limited it to only certain areas. That would not be fair, but I do think that some of the distance we need to consider putting in the state.
I hear what you're saying, and certainly, those concerns, especially being about the press. I will have the ones, on the other hand, we do have problems on our at that part of the day. And it does seem to me that we're taking away from parents. I mean, if a parent is concerned with their child crossing, absolutely, they shouldn't kind of inform, but I feel comfortable with parents.
Any other comment on your end? Chris, Rob?
Yeah, I guess I just like to comment that in theory, I agree that that's the way it should be. I mean, it's a little bit, obviously, once children are home with their parents, we trust them, so why not trust them to be intentional as well? I just have a liability concern that if the, AAP says that the safe age is fourth and fifth grade, and then, if unfortunately some kid has an accident, I mean, maybe not necessarily saying this will prevent accidents, we're just saying if it does happen, then it goes before the jury, is the jury gonna really say, well, that's the parent's responsibility to sign the waiver, or are they gonna say, well, the policy, the school can protect the child? I'm assuming from the fact that lawyers were involved, that there was some advice, legal advice, and district liability.
The policy did go through our legal counsel. So the policy as it is written now did go through legal counsel for advice.
No, Christina?
Oh,
Hi, sorry.
Oh.
it's
comment, sorry.
The great voice from above, sorry. I'm just wondering if you had an opportunity to speak with any of the other supers in Middlesex, you know, since there was I mean, I have no idea what other districts' policies are. I mean, I know my husband's a third grade teacher in New Brunswick and all his kids have to be released to someone. But I don't know what those policies are in other districts.
We were only a small handful, I think one or two that actually released as early as third grade. I know Metuchen is because it's the way their schools are grouped. So, you know, Bartle's interesting because it's a combined 2 through 4.
Right.
And that's the only one I'm familiar with, but I think a lot of other districts don't have the policy at all because they don't have students that walk. So you have to find those districts around us that do allow walkers.
I think that is though an interesting point, right? I mean, the reason that our buildings are the way our buildings are is because the entire town, the schools were desegregated back in the 70s, right? So we don't have quote unquote neighborhood schools. I mean, clearly it's a neighborhood because it's Highland Park is a neighborhood, but it's not neighborhood in that, you know, it used to be that, you know, the building on, on 2nd Avenue was the neighborhood school. And, you know, we used to have quote unquote neighborhood schools where we'd have elementary schools where the kids were within a small walking radius, but we don't have that. We have kids who go to Bartle who are in the Triangle or on the north side or on whatever. So it does kind of separate us from a Metuchen or from a place where kids can't walk or whatever, right? Like our schools are set up differently. That makes it very difficult to have, you know, kids that young walking. So, you know, personally, I'm all for leaving it the way that it is. And yeah.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Walker, to interrupt in the floor, Chris and Darcy. Was our council asked about the wisdom of reducing the age to 2nd and 3rd grade? Or
Yes, so if you read the beginning of the policy, there's actual legislation that came up as a result of a case with a child that I believe died as a result of leaving school grounds, or something familiar like that. So I think that the beginning states that some of the legislation that's in there, it should start with the legislation, I believe.
it looks like it's a Supreme Court case.
Supreme Court case, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just took a quick look at the case, and I think my life is super careful and doing. It looks like it's not saying like as a matter of law, New Jersey, 2nd and 3rd grade is not.
Right.
And I would note that, in New Jersey for child protection purposes, there is no law in New Jersey about when the child can be left at home or you're distinct from other states in that regard, and, you know, rightly so, I think. So that seems to be one kind of New Jersey, the way New Jersey courts, legislators using, they see it as a reasonable standard.
Right.
Not so much like, it's 9 and he's walking home, you know, that's child abuse.
Correct.
Some states do that way. I also just feel like it's tough, you know, with the town is providing activities for kids and working parents just can't transport. There's a lot of things in the district that are hard for working, I don't mean working parents, commuting parents. Plenty of parents who are able to like flex time or they work home, they work in my park. But commuting parents who are able to flex schedule, it's just really tough. You know, we're a walkable town. I certainly do get it. The thought of something like what crossing the train tracks to Cedar Ave on their own, you know, they're kind of busting. It just seems like I'm trying to think of a situation where a parent would be so irresponsible to, you know, sign a permission slip for a child who really, really wants to play after it's that far away. But I guess it can happen. But in other words, if we're trying to apply with the Supreme Court, I think it would be reasonable to have an opt-in prior.
Any other comments, or we're gonna move on, and we'll come back to that when we vote. Is it on that? Okay, so we're gonna move on to public comment. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board Policy 0164 and 0167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So if you would like to participate, this is the time when your participation is limited to 3 minutes. And you need just to raise your hand, virtual or real, and give us your name and address when we call on you. Did you want to speak? Oh, being in the room comes first.
Hi, my name is Ann Barton, at 208 Grant Street, and I am mother of a third grader. And I am here tonight to respectfully request that we do amend the 8601 policy around dismissal to include second and third graders. We moved to New Jersey. I had never even been to the state, site on the team, and we had three requirements for where we wanted to live. We wanted to live in a district that had quality, diverse schools, that was approved by the community, and that was welcome, that had a lot of downtown. And we chose Highland Park, and we continued to live here for the last 13 years. We lived here long before we had children. We bought a house, and we chose to stay here in Highland Park for exactly all of those reasons. They're really important to us. Despite the fact that, we pay higher property taxes.
Closer to the, I'm sorry, closer to the mic. The people at home can't hear you. I apologize.
Despite the fact that we pay higher property taxes and we have longer commutes, we choose to live here. It's where we choose to raise our children. So my daughter is in the third grade, and she is extremely responsible and independent. As parents, we choose to encourage them, especially after all the trauma and COVID restrictions of the past 30 months or so. She bikes and walks all over town to a friend's house. She goes to the park deli and buys candy with her own money. And she does so safely. We wouldn't let her do that if she was not responsible enough to do that. She's proven it to us. And again, this is one of the main reasons that why we live here and why we don't live in a development in South Brunswick, even though it would lower our property taxes and shorten our commutes. The current oral dismissal policy and the proposed 8601 policy really does keep us from being able to parent the way that we choose to. And every school day really does take away one of the main reasons that we continue to live here. Our daughter walks to school alone without incident and has she walked with a third grader last year, but now walks by herself without incident. She's really responsible. And in fact, Highland Park wouldn't be an outlier if we did lower the walking age. In fact, the proposed policy is out of step with neighboring districts. I spent time and called schools in surrounding communities, nearby towns that allow third graders or younger to walk home without adult supervision, as long as there's written parental permission. Include Metuchen, Princeton, Piscataway, Middletown, South Brunswick, and New Brunswick. Those towns are not, the walkable close communities that we have in the same way, not all of them. And once again, the government, our government regularly sponsors events through the library, through the rec department, start before 6 p.m. I went through today, and actually, just right now, there's a theater program that is across the street from Bartle at the community center that begins at 4 p.m. There's cross country, which is at 5:15. I went through, there was a May the 4th Be With You event at the library that started at 3, and these are all events that start for second graders that make it extremely difficult for families to get to. So amending the policy to allow second and third graders to leave school without adult supervision as long as there's written permission also really wouldn't affect anyone except for the families who want it, right? For example, my son is going to be entering Irving next year as a kindergartner. Given his current behavior, I don't think there's a chance that we would let him walk home by himself. He's not as responsible as our daughter is, but our daughter
very clearly walks to school and then like she should be able to walk home. And once again, I'm saying amending this policy would really, I mean, this is an opportunity where you're really, it's only going to impact the families who actually want it. If you don't want your kid to walk home, you just don't find the permission for it. So also I did review the Supreme Court decision and relevant case law. I can tell you what the Supreme Court decision requires, which is the school district must adopt a reasonable policy concerning dismissal and the manner in which students of different ages will be dismissed. The school must provide adequate notice of that policy to all parents and guardians, and the school must effectively implement that policy and adhere to parents' reasonable requests for guardians. The case that this was built on, I believe 2007, was an early dismissal, where the school dismissed at 1:30 instead of 3:30, and parents were not notified that the school was dismissed early. It was a third grader who usually walked home with the parents, and 2 hours after he was dismissed early, he was hit by a front post. That is a very, very, very different situation than what we're talking about here with, like, because the school does a great job communicating with parents about school schedules and about things like that. And this is really, there's no guidelines. You can, in New Brunswick, you can walk home in kindergarten if your parents sign something, it's okay. So we live 2.5 blocks from Myrtle. I mean, it really genuinely is why we choose to live here, is about the, you know, diverse, wonderful, progressive community, and the fact that our kids get to live more independent lives. We don't have to fight them. So I'm happy to answer.
You're past your 3 minutes. Hold on. I appreciate all what you're saying. You're past your 3 minutes. So you just want to wrap up?
So
That's
I
it.
just respectfully request.
Thank you. Okay, thanks so much. We have 3 hands. I think Andrea, I think your hand was up first. Andrea, Rebecca, and then Emily. And then there's somebody else there too. So Andrea, if you want to.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Andrea Alexander. I live at 116 North 3rd Avenue, and I am also speaking to ask that policy 8601 be amended to allow for parents to make decisions about when their children are old enough and responsible enough to walk home at the end of the school day. I feel that the 4th grade baseline is an arbitrary decision. My daughter is an October 15th birthday. She's going to be 9. She's going to be a 9-year-old 3rd grader in a few weeks. So she is the same age as all the 4th graders that are allowed to walk home, but she, is not going to be allowed to walk home because she missed the cutoff by 15 days. So I feel like it's an arbitrary, cutoff. And also, I think that this policy, it places an undue burden on working parents because I think that Anne had mentioned my daughter is supposed to participate in the rec sponsored play that is across the street from Bartle. But if my husband and I are both at work, because we're both back in the office now this year, we actually have no way of getting her there. So it's excluding her from being able to participate in town sponsored activities. So I think that the decision of when a child is able to walk home should be a decision that parents make. We live in a walkable community. It's why a lot of us live here. We want to teach our children to be responsible. And, we all hear a lot about how it's really good to teach our children responsibility and give them some freedom. And so I think, kids in Bartle should be old enough if their parents trust them to be allowed to walk home if their parents, sign a waiver and, make the decision to let them walk. So I'm hoping that the board will consider amending the policy to allow, at least 3rd graders, which, those 3rd graders who are going to be 9 years old too. So there's a lot of these kids are the same age as those 4th graders who are allowed to walk home. So I think, we should eliminate that sort of arbitrary bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca Hirsch?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking taking my comment. Rebecca Hirsch, 331 Felton Avenue in Highland Park. I just I'm confused about the new middle school schedule regarding the music program. It seems really confusing. I mean, I have a current 8th grader and I have a high school kid, and they have both been in the band program throughout middle school. And in previous years, band has been like a separate class, which has been great. It's been fine. But this year, they've changed it so that it's not a separate class. And then it cuts into lunch and it cuts into academic classes. So like the kid, for example, my 8th grader is in the band program, and he no longer has band every day, which is the first time that that's ever happened. They used to have it every day. And now it's only twice a week. And it on the days when the kids go to music, they only get 20 minutes for lunch. And it's not enough time to get online and get food and eat. So it's very, very rushed. And then also there was another email today sent saying that now, in addition to the 20-minute lunch thing, kids in the music program are also going to be pulled out of academic classes to go to the music class, which I don't, I mean, I really want my children to be in the music program, but I also don't want them to miss, math and English class. So I'm not sure why the schedule was changed. Seemed like it was working better before, but I don't think it's a great idea to cut out eating and academic subjects. And I don't want to see the music program suffer. Next Perez has been great. They did such a good job last year, and I'm worried that the music program is going to suffer and that kids are going to leave it because it's just untenable not being able to, go to regular classes and not being able to have lunch. I feel like it's sort of killing the music program. Anyway, so I'm sort of confused by the whole thing, and I didn't know if there was an explanation for it or if it was going to change, if it was going to be subject to changes throughout the year. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to respond or?
I'll respond via email or a phone call tomorrow with Ms.
Okay.
Brady.
Okay, terrific. All right. Emily, next.
Hi, Dr. Emily Bosk, 423 Harrison Avenue. Thank you all so much for your service. I'm wanted to just comment in support of revision of the amendment. I'm sorry, I don't have the number right in front of me, but to allow children to walk home only via parental permission. My area is child development, and I just wanted to say that I think it's important to think holistically about children's developmental needs, and for kids who live a block or two or who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate in programs and who could safely walk home according to parental assessment and skill. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a mother of 2 third graders who are identical twins, one of which who could handle it, one of who could not, and therefore they would not be walking home under this policy. But sort of that just kids are different and they have different abilities, and that especially after the last 3 years of COVID, the ability for kids of working parents to participate in programs that they could get to that are a block or two away that they could not get to otherwise, I think would be important. I also think that this policy is in line with what other districts' policies are. There's nothing radical or really different about this kind of amendment, and it would not impact any family that chose not to utilize it. So I just wanted to add my support for an amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine Hirsch?
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Christine Hirsch, 333 Felton Avenue. I just wanted to second what Rebecca mentioned. I spoke with Miss Brady last week, and she explained the reasonings for like what's going on, but I just wanted to put on record that I strongly don't agree with children at that age level being pulled from their academics. I think children are really going to struggle. So I just hope something can be worked out, because again, I do think Mixed Prez just did an amazing job last year.
Okay, thank you. And I think there'll be a response coming out in email just to clarify some of the details, and that will be coming out. I know there was a parent committee that worked on the schedule. And I know they're trying. The only things I know is also from a letter I saw that Ms. Brady had put out to in response, but we'll clarify some of that. The students coming out of academics would be on a rotating basis from different classes.
I do
Schedule-
understand that. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just think it might be helpful to also get the students' opinion about like how they feel with what's going on, because I know a lot are struggling with it. And
Okay.
I think although there was like the parent advisory committee with mixed pres involved, I think feedback from the students would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Oh, sure.
Thank you for Seth Cockerell, 23 South Avenue. After reading your schools and those students. I'm just stopped by tonight because I pro soccer team won 2-0 to it. It was great. I missed it at the meeting. But driving home, my wife told me that once again, a Christian school ended up evangelism cards to every kid on their team, try to get the game. I don't think coaches and players should need to have to confront that scenario. So I just, as one of the Christian pastors in this town, I was deeply offended. I love our interfaith school and our interfaith community, and respect for others also is not pushing. And so I just felt like an administrative or board conversation about that. Secondly, in school, it's happened with a couple different schools where personalized cards with their players' names and their uniform numbers are written by other students, and this, kids from the other team, personal letters that are very Jesus-y and include the phone number of the other player. You can call them if they want to know more about, going ahead and this kind of stuff. So I find it deeply offensive, and I just think public school in this town is a beautiful thing, and I don't like to see this kind of, it's offensive to me on a faith level, but more offensive to me frankly on a public school. Just one basic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I see Dr. McCoach is writing it down. I'm sure there'll be a lot of follow-up on that. It's obviously not something
Yeah,
that,
but please not.
no.
I just want to play.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure it's well intended, but.
Could,
Rather inappropriate. So do we,
Oh,
could you guys clarify what that was? We couldn't hear that at all at home.
oh, yes, you just have to, Darcy, you have to be really close to the mic for the people at home. Sorry, for everybody, our videographer was here, but the equipment had technical issues, so that's why we're streaming it on Zoom. So, but some of the mics feed through that system, so it's hard to hear at home, so I apologize for our technical issues. But basically, if I can just recap what Seth said, that apparently at some of our games, including the recent girls soccer game, today, a visiting team was handing out evangelistic cards that were personalized for our student. By the way, Darcy's face is just so trying to give everybody the picture here. Personalized cards that had their name and their jersey number, and then a phone number of the opposing teammate to call, the player to call if you have questions about going to heaven and things like that. And so Seth, not only from a religious perspective, but a personal perspective, I was deeply offended by that. And I can see that some of our board members and myself are as well. So I wrote it down as something to look into. Apparently it's happened in the past as well. So I'm glad that he's bringing it to our attention. All the stars aligned tonight. It's happened in the past to the people at home, but it happened to also happen tonight when we had a board meeting as Seth was driving home. So he decided to pop in and let us know. So thank you for that.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of follow-up. A hand raised by Amina.
Hi, this is Amina at 327 Summit Place. I just wanted to add a comment regarding the lunch and music program. My son was just telling me that he's only allowed to have lunch with the band members on the days that he has band. And he says it's when they do have band, it's really crammed and all the classes are together. So I just wanted to raise that issue as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the public?
Marilyn, if you follow about the middle school. I think.
Of course, yep.
Yeah. No, I have to read on. Middle school music arguments.
Schedule the challenge, right? Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to board action items. And Allison, do you want to move curriculum and instruction?
Instruction items 1 to 3.
I'll second it.
Ms. Cassell,
Yes.
Mr. Morosky,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
And finance and facilities? Mark,
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 7.
I'll second it.
Ms. Cassell,
Yes.
Mr. Morosky,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
And personnel and communications, Chris?
I'd like to divide this to 256 as an outline.
Ms. Cassell,
Yes.
Mr. Morosky,
Yes.
Ms. Gowan,
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Ms. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
And we're on to policies.
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 3, and after it's seconded, if anyone has an amendment, please speak up. So,
I would like to bring
So I have a question. I'm not sure how the policy, how this works,
That's
but
the
our
way it works.
procedure, how the procedure would work.
yes.
So I think the parents make a compelling argument. I would feel more comfortable amending this policy if we had legal, like if we weren't going to be held more liable. So I'm wondering, could we put this off and run it by lawyers? Would that
We
be
have a motion started.
okay? Well,
that-
yeah, so.
I mean,
I don't have a policy.
unless Ms. Gowan wants to withdraw her motion, pending what Ms. Cruz has to say. No, we got.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
So meaning if we remove the motion, we can table it.
I mean, I'm not inclined to withdraw, it, but my understanding is that we can still go forward with the attorney. And then we can make a motion later on, and then you're to adopt. If you put the policy through again.
Okay,
In other words, if you talk to council tomorrow and they say, yeah.
that would be my only.
You should
yeah.
make it. your amendment.
So, yeah, so-
Wait, oh, Darcy has a comment. I'm sorry.
I was just, I can't hear what Ann is saying, but it may be, I don't know if we table it or if we remove, yeah, it may be easier to just table it than to approve it. Because if we approve it and then want to amend it, then we'd have to go back to first reading. So, do you know what I mean? It might take longer. So it may be better to just table it, ask whatever questions we want. And I wanted to add too that while we were all doing whatever, I texted my husband and I was completely wrong. Kids in New Brunswick in 3rd grade can walk home with parent permission. So, I agree with Marilyn, like listening to folks, in select circumstances, if it's not going to put the district at risk. So.
Point of order. We have a motion out to approve all these 3 policies. We have a motion started that has to be completed with a second, and then the conversation can take place, whether we want to do another motion to amend. So can we please have a second to Ann Gowan's motion? Now you can have a discussion.
What was Ann's motion? I can't hear whatever Ann said.
Ann did not make a motion.
Ann didn't make a motion yet.
She was trying to make a motion.
She was trying to make a motion, but it didn't happen.
Gotcha.
Now she would like to make a motion.
And I'm prepared to make a second motion if this one fails.
That's whatever you're doing now is even worse, Ann.
Thanks. I would like to move that we amend policy 8601, paragraph 3, first sentence, to say, no students attending blah, blah, blah in grades pre-K to 1 will be released to walk home after dismissal. In other words, the policy would be allowing, the parents would be, the policy would allow second and third graders to walk home with parent permission. I would also be moving at the same time to make the policy work. Paragraph 4, sentence 1, blah, blah, blah. No students attending a district operated school or program in grades 2, 3, 4, or 5 will be released to walk home, et cetera, et cetera. Let me see if there's anything else that would need to be changed. We don't think so. All right, that's my motion. Second.
Now, what's the next step, Linda?
The next step would be, you can continue your conversation as far as whether you want to table anything. Within,
I'd like to speak against tabling it. The current policy,
there's no motion.
she made the
Just
motion and it's the
discussing.
second.
So we're discussing that motion?
And there's a
She made
motion that has
she
a
made the
second
motion and
to
second
amend it.
to amend it and
Okay.
to second it.
Right.
The Motion to amend.
is
I want
there-
to speak on the motion to amend.
Okay.
We haven't had a motion like this in 38 years. I've been on boards of education in Highland Park. So I want to speak in favor of not tabling it. Either of the motions, motion to amend or the motion to policy, because the current policy allows any student, and in many districts, the boilerplate policy that we were provided by the Strauss S. May allows students to walk home without parental permission. And so we haven't been sued on that policy, and we're not likely to be sued for liability if the parent signs a release. And I'm compelled by what the parents have said to us tonight, that even though the American Pediatric Academy of Pediatrics talks about 10-year-olds, there are 9-year-olds and perhaps even 8-year-olds that are capable of walking home, especially if walking home is a block or two away, and I leave that to the parents to decide. And I would like the release that is signed to be, although this is an administrative issue, to be relatively strong, so that the parents are taking full responsibility and are holding the Board of Education harmless if some untoward event occurs. So I support both motions, of course.
Any other discussion on the motion? Or did I say that? I don't know.
Now we have a parallel procedural path. Okay, so we do not have a motion to table anything. We have a motion right now to amend the policy, and then that's within the motion to approve our policy. Okay, so since there is no further discussion, I would like to take a vote on the motion to amend policy 8601. Okay.
Is it possible for me to hear what Ann was saying in terms of amending the policy? So I think we would have to state very plainly what the amendments are we would be voting on. I couldn't understand a word of it. So, I mean, you guys could all vote on it, but I wouldn't vote on it because I have no idea what Ann said.
Hold on.
Can you hear it? Can you hear me now, Darcy?
Not really. I don't know why you're,
Yeah, could be the microphone. Or just-
well, I mean, but it should be written down somewhere. I mean, so it,
Even when I'm kissing the microphone, it doesn't seem to work. So is this better?
yeah.
Okay, so I would be moving. Sorry. I
No,
don't
that's
mean to
okay.
be
No,
in your personal
okay, come on in.
So, paragraph 3 of the policy, I would change, first sentence, paragraph 3, instead of grades pre-K to 3, I'm moving that we change that to grades 1 or 2. Oh, sorry, no, excuse
Pre-K
me.
to 1.
Let me start again. Pre-K to 1. Pre-K to 3 would be stricken, pre-K to 1 would be inserted, or 3 would be stricken, 1 would be inserted.
Okay.
And the next paragraph, first sentence, instead of in grades 4 to 5, it would say in grades 2 through 5. And those are the two proposed amendments.
Okay. And to be clear, before this policy was in place? What was the practice?
The practice was that grades 4 through 12 were able to do it.
And so prior to now, grades pre-K through 3 were not under any circumstance.
Correct.
So it's not just a change of policy, it's a change of practice.
Correct.
And I also asked, on the edit list for the policy, one of at some point, the age was raised by 1 year. Was that on legal advice, or was it?
The current policy, one of us.
Or the edit to the proposed policy? I think originally when I looked at Marksman's, it said we were gonna allow third and fourth graders to walk home with parental permission. It was changed to fourth and fifth.
Oh, I did not see that.
If I wrote 3 and 4, that was a mistake. It was 4 and 5.
But I'm just specifically wondering, my concern is really about the liability. So do we have any legal counsel about liability specifically the age?
I mean, sorry, that's not really.
Right now, no.
Well, wait.
I mean, my
Oh.
opinion is that that's just a reasonable standard, that's important to say. And, you know, as the parent indicated, back to that case where it's prevalent, you know, school dismissed early, no notice to parents, kids let out willy-nilly, so look at my car, terrible. We're talking about parents, you know, children being released at the wrong time, and for permission, yada, yada. Certainly if something happens, we will be sued, but I don't think that this policy allowing parental permission, for second and third graders. I don't think a change in policy is gonna hurt us, so rather adoption of this policy rather than the higher age policy. We need to Jonathan's opine on that, and I guess that's what you should say. You should say, I'm strongly recommending you do it, you know, the most conservative possible, because that's, you know, what we're trying to do advise. And then they'll say, but, you know, the important to still require to be reasonable. You know, and be honest. Go ahead.
Sorry, Chris, I've looked at every policy around the area when Ms. Gardner sent us our initial letter. And Metuchen was in 3rd grade, I think mostly because of the configuration of its schools. But the policy we get from Strauss Esme, who are lawyers who review the state law, the policy we get from them allows, and most districts in the county allow students to walk home, period. And our policy bordered on that, not our practice, but our policy did.
Mhm.
So I cannot imagine in my wildest dreams, there would be, never know, there would be a legal issue or a liability issue with us allowing a parent to sign a waiver for 2nd and 3rd graders. Okay.
I thought, where did paragraph 3 come from? Is that's not recommended by President?
Correct. We rewrote parts
Oh,
of it.
we added it.
We added those to match what Metuchen does, because Metuchen's policy was so much better than the Strauss Esme policy. So that's where those changes came.
I see, my policy.
So I think we have no liability here. And if a parent believes their child is responsible, as we've heard from several parents, I was completely on the fence, not knowing what to do until I read the article about 10-year-olds are certainly capable and below that age may not be. But I'm swayed by parents wanting to sign their kids out, and I'll say something else. When my kids were in school here, everyone walked home if they wanted to. There were neighborhood schools more, but kids who lived 3 blocks away and they were in 1st grade, they walked home. So I just don't, I think we're spending a lot of energy on this. We should do the right thing, and I think the right thing is to respect the parents' wishes.
As a question. There are references to other grades in the policy. Are they going to stay the same? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Now,
the
where
only-
where are we now? in the-
Okay,
The
so-
voting process here.
So we're still on a
Okay.
vote to amend policy 8601, and it, that it would be paragraphs 3 and 4. The remainder of the policy would remain the same.
Correct.
Changing paragraph 3 to say grades pre-K to 1 instead of grades pre-K to 3. Paragraph 4 saying grade 2 to 5 rather than grade 4 to 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Wait, hold on. Can you hear Rob Darcy?
Say something, Rob.
It just, hopefully rather simple, but the second sentence in the paragraph, you know, like the reasoning for the 8601, and then like the first and second paragraph. I mean, do we really need that? I mean, can we just keep it to the box rather than?
I like that in theory,
Yeah.
but.
But if it doesn't bother anyone else, you know.
If we're starting from scratch, I would do it. But that's right, that's gonna delay things significantly. I don't, it doesn't say dangerous is just for fighting. We all know dangerous is just for younger students. But I think. Higher than the case of all of the how they're. Taking stuff on paper and probably completely. So it's incorporating something like this is the piece. Right, where are we? Oh, sorry.
You want to call to a vote? Is that what we're doing?
Okay. Yes. The vote on amending policy 8601. I noted. Ms. Cassel? Yes. Ms. Marusty?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ms. Prus?
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Okay, and now going back to the main agenda motion. Policy 3601 has four amendments. Ms. Cassel? Yes. Ms. Simorowski?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Okay. Where are we agenda wise?
Or liaison report.
Board liaison reports, I can't even say it. Does anybody have any reports, anything on these committees that they would like to report on? Chris, what can you do?
Well, there was a board of health meeting, a couple of days ago. The one was that they made some attempt to share what the COVID situation is. I think we discussed the.
What situation?
The COVID.
COVID.
Schools. You know, we discussed that maybe it doesn't make sense anymore to probably account cases, especially since the case numbers are not. But is there something we can do to, I mean, just because people are making behavioral decisions based on their own vulnerability and the risk level of the schools, and if you really have no idea, you know, do they wear masks to what extent do they eat lunch inside or outside? Is there some way that we can give, you know, to the level of the school?
What's the kind of thing that when a parent calls and says, I'm gonna do my kid on because of COVID.
So right now, the current process is that if there's a positive reported case, it's reported to my office and then we report it to the Department of Health. To date, no cases have been reported.
That can be a variety.
So, right, I mean, I don't,
What
I don't
about
know.
Staff numbers, does that take a lot of extra work for us to report the number of staff who were currently involved in COVID infections?
I mean, probably, but again, they'd have to report it.
So you wouldn't necessarily know that.
I wouldn't necessarily know that.
Any other committee reports? board liaison groups? Okay, seeing that, I'm gonna work on this list at some point and try to figure out what these committees really are and who's out there working.
Mine's starting on the end.
Oh, good. Okay.
And the ladies.
Okay, on the president's report, I wanted to use a few minutes just to go over the board goals that I emailed you. Just for the public, the process that each year, boards are encouraged to pass goals for themselves. This is kind of separate from the district and what's happening in the schools. It's more for our functioning as a board. So each year we go through a process of self-evaluation, and this year, majority of the board did a self-evaluation process through New Jersey School Boards Association, and then we're given the results. Where the results are compiled and then given to us as a compilation, and board members felt we were doing well in all areas. The two areas that everybody seemed to feel we needed to focus on were communications and community relations, and somewhat in planning, and that was kind of unclear as to what planning should look like going forward. So the board goals that I put out, and I'll read them, and then if anybody has anything they want to say about it, we'll do it that way, and then we're actually going to vote on them. So the goals are divided into two areas: communications and community relations, and planning. And the first one says, the Highland Park Board of Education will develop and maintain communication that will inform and engage our school community. The board will remain aware of and responsive to the community's values and priorities, and engage in respectful and timely interactions with the entire community. This shall be attained through the following: engage the community in more proactive communication, including through website enhancements, social media platforms, and district and school-based communications focused on transparency and relationship building. And keep the community informed about the work taking place in our schools through recognizing the achievements of staff members and highlighting programs that are making a difference in our schools at our board meetings. And in the area of planning, the Highland Park Board of Education will work with the administration to support the Pathways to Excellence strategic plan for 22-23, guided by discussions with the central leadership team and community, including the school start time project and increasing access to honors and advanced placement classes for students of underrepresented minorities. The board will start a review of long-term capital needs for 23-24 planning, led by the Finance and Facilities Committee. And the board will consult with our New Jersey School Boards Association field representative to explore the district's needs in the area of long-range planning. So questions or discussions on that? Everybody's comfortable with those?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think over the last 2 weeks, I really came up with something that I feel like we need to have this. My experience, my daughter's experience in terms of her courses for her high school courses. For senior year, for her junior year, for other years. Each year, we felt like the planning process, the course selection process, the availability of the classes that she wanted to take, what was available when, that she had a lot of confidence in terms of what she could take, what she wanted to take, and then also, I think, in speaking to Mr. Lassiter, like some of this is culminated in the children of teachers. Some of it is based on the number of teachers who've already taken a 6-period class, and whether or not, or the number of students who requested to take the class. We understand that there's a lot of students interested in taking calculus this year, so the calculus wasn't being offered, so she either had to take allocated B or something else in its place, and so it's not just this year, the previous years, and then also looking at the number of credits that were required for her to graduate to comparison to other school districts that have a lower course credit. And then also just looking at the high school planning guide, which really hasn't changed so much over the years, and me reading it versus her reading it and not quite understanding it. I feel like we need to do better for our students through the middle school, high school process. To help them take the courses that they want to take and have the courses available for them. And then also, help them through that planning process. So they're not like stuck seeing a year and thinking, oh, let's take these classes that I'm really interested in, but finding out that there's something that's meant for a course that was the 1 year where everyone had to take the same class because we had, I can't remember the name of the class right now, but everyone was just like, suddenly they fall into this one course.
Can you come a little bit more to the microphone? I'm sorry, I got a text.
No,
It's very hard for anybody on remote to hear you. So, Dorothy, we're gonna try to, Dorothy and others, we're trying to get a little closer to the audio. So give us a heads up.
Yeah. Darcy's saying she can't hear you at all.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
So maybe just coming over, sorry, getting up and just coming over closer, maybe to the computer audio will help. I don't know why it's being glitchy. I apologize. I'm so sorry.
No, we have a problem.
I can't control the tech.
No,
No, I think that one of the goals should also include like this, at the same time, we're looking at changing the school start times, that we want to look at finding a way to assist the high school and the middle school in the overall course planning process. So that way the students have greater flexibility in their overall schedules, and they're not disappointed like the week before school starts, finding out that not all the courses that they're signing up for or trying to take aren't there. So I think we have to take a larger look at that and support the district in modifying the plans or working on the plan. Where am I going with this? We got to support the district in figuring out how to fix the problem. Because I think there is a problem there. Thank you.
Marilyn, you want to say something?
Yes, come on over. Come on down. Down.
So I very much agree that we need to work on that process, Rob. My sense is that that the board goals as they've been articulated so far at a much higher level of generality. I don't know if that's something we want to sort of have as an informal operations goal or something like that. I mean, it feels weird to me to say, we're going to communicate with the community and also we're going to work on this one very specific thing.
It also feels like super important, except that it's
Yes.
more a district goal. It's more what administration of the high school needs to be maybe reporting to us on over
Yeah.
time. If that's, if that's a thing, it's certainly an important area, and maybe even our student reps might have a thought on this. If you're still awake. Over here, it's a long meeting. But I'm just not sure that it's within the purview of the board to do that as a board goal. Like, it's just a different important area. I sort of agree with what Ann's saying.
The board has talked about it a million times, so it's definitely something that we care about, but maybe not as a goal.
But the start time is big and global. It's like every middle and high school student. Whereas the courses certainly affect some students, but it's really a superintendent and high school administration issue to sort out what courses they're going to give and how to do those courses
With the board support as
with
needed.
our support, if we can hire teachers. But it's not, doesn't feel to me like a board goal as much as a district goal, honestly.
And the same, and we have had the conversation just recently at the end of last year. You probably can't hear me, but I don't know if my microphone is better, about the number of credits, that we require more credits from the district. And that's something certainly we've asked administration to look at and maybe, reconsider going forward at some point. But again, I'm not sure that it's under our control to do it. I don't know. That's my thought as well.
May I ask another question? Or are we still doing discuss? Are we done with that discussion or am I? I don't mean to presume we're finished. But I also want to let you. All right, so Marilyn, I think I'm looking at an old version of the goals that didn't have the stuff about the strategic.
Right, yes, I think
plan.
I put it out twice. I put it out 2 different ways.
Oh,
That's
I
what did.
missed the second,
This
okay.
was the first one that I put out, and I changed it a little bit.
So is it gonna is the goal that we're adopting tonight, that you're proposing we're adopting, is it going to include the strategic plan, equity, AP classes? I'm sorry.
Yes, AP classes and the school start time. It's the first email I put out about
But
it.
that's
I-
been out for a while.
I took it out, right?
but
And it's actually it's on our agenda.
no, I understand it's out, but I have an email from you here, that didn't, for whatever reason, maybe I'm
Might be
looking
more
at,
than one, more than one.
yeah, that didn't include any of the substantive stuff. So the email I have was mostly, of course, now I can't find it. It's in here somewhere.
It was an earlier version.
There was an earlier version. This is what's on tonight's agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. It actually literally is on the agenda. I'm sorry.
Yes, it is on the, it is on the, it was on the agenda. It's sent out.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I was looking at the email.
Yeah, there were different versions of it.
I actually have.
Very
it.
hard on.
No, they're fantastic. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted, I was like,
like
wow,
married
where's
to
all
them.
this with equity and AP? Where I didn't get that email. I know it's on the agenda. All right.
Okay, no, it's okay.
Okay.
Did you move this one? Second?
I didn't move it yet. I was asking for discussion. Any other discussion on these board goals?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Okay, I move that we accept the board goals as written. Is there a second? Now any discussion?
I think these are great. I think like, one thing to do procedural board stuff.
Yeah. Now we have to try to actually do it. I mean, Allison had emailed about what social media, how do we do this on social media? It's a conversation we have to have about how we do social media, but we put out some of the good stuff or not as it comes up. Okay, so is it a roll call vote or? I think we have a.
Any further discussion?
Dare you ask?
Yeah, you're a brave woman.
Okay, Ms. Caselda? Mr. Borowski?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan? Yes. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Mr. Rizlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
Okay, any old business? No? Okay, new business? Go ahead, go for it.
Just in case, come on over here, just in case. Yeah, and everybody else at home.
It's a party at Christina's, Mike.
A second, wait,
So-
wait, you're here, yeah.
I received numerous complaints tonight about the audio and the tech, and this has been an ongoing issue. And since one of our board goals is about community engagement and communication, I would propose that if we don't get this audio issue fixed by the next meeting, that we hold a remote meeting so as to avoid all of the audio problems. I think having the community engaged, as much as I love seeing you all here, having the community engaged and reducing that level of frustration is more worth it than being together and having to deal with all the issues.
Thank you.
In a lot of ways. Agreed.
Anne said agreed, Darcy.
But hopefully this is a one-time thing, a one-time issue with the. Hopefully the problems with the audio are a one-time thing. We don't have our videographer here. Oh,
So I'm just gonna put it out there. I know we talked about this a lot last year. Hybrid is a struggle. It's a struggle in the classroom. When we're teaching a hybrid, the meetings are hybrid as well. Again, I cannot promise that there won't be any tech issues moving forward. We will try our best to improve it. That's, hybrid is very, very challenging.
Today is particularly bad. It's literally have no.
Right, today was just bad because the equipment went MIA. We finally found the equipment and there was no laptop or the laptop was broken and things like that. And unfortunately, we don't have, once 4 o'clock hits, staff goes home. So we don't have tech on staff. I'm the best that you get, but I don't have an extra laptop handy. I only have my own and I can't give that up. So, I didn't have access to extra equipment. So it's unfortunate.
But there is there is what Allison just said, and maybe that's what you were saying, Mark, is going all remote. We did it in August and July, and there was no tech issues.
No, you're right.
I don't know the answer to that.
A year ago, when I was president of the board, And I suggested just at this time that the pandemic, and at that time, the pandemic seemed to be waning a little until Delta again. I said, let's go back to all in person, and the board did not want to do that. If we said, as every other school district practically in the state, I think there may be no more than a very small handful of school districts that are hybrid or remote right now. I think in the county, likely we're the only one. If we would go completely in person, then that communication issue would go away. I feel that hearing our one speaker tonight had me in person, had me and perhaps others change their point of view. And I think if we had all of the public here to talk to us, I think, much as I'm wearing my mask some of the time now, I think it would be very useful to us all to consider. I know people bitterly oppose the event, but I think we maybe want to consider that again.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that, oh, am I not
Yeah.
close enough?
Oh, she's fine back there.
So it must be,
Proximity, it's just within a bubble around Christina, you're good.
All right. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Mark, and there's also like some independent merits in having this done in person. We're showing up, we're here. On the other hand, there's so many people that have trouble getting to the meetings. I mean, anybody with little kids, anybody with any kind of COVID vulnerability, adults, older people. I would prefer to go all hybrid. I'd be interested to hear from the.
Prefer to go all remote.
Oh, sorry, all remote. I prefer all remote to all in person. But I also, I know we've had tech hiccups before. I wonder how frequent they are. My impression when I've been remote is that normally a couple times I've been remote at a hybrid meeting and it's been okay. Today we're missing all our equipment, which, stinks. And it made this meeting like not very meaningful for many members of the public.
I think the tech glitches are understandable, I hope, and forgivable for the accessibility of a hybrid meeting, right? If I couldn't get every word, I got the gist. And if I couldn't, I tried to let you guys know that we couldn't hear back here. So yes, it's an annoyance, but I think the annoyance is seriously counterbalanced by the, what's the word I'm looking, the convenience of folks being able to drop in, leave their comment, and then go back about their business and not having to leave their house, all those things. So, I think, yes, can we always, do better on the hybrid? Sure. But the fact, I think that we're offering it, I hope folks are, grateful enough for that, that they're not too judgmental about the hiccups.
We're all
Okay, thank
judgmental.
you.
I know that it is a burden on Dr. Nicosia.
Yeah.
If other board members can help with the clerical parts of it, I think we're happy to do so. The sitting and hitting a key, if that's possible.
Okay, so we're going to move on to public comment. Leave things as they are, I think. As I said before, Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 0164 and 0167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. So if anybody would like to speak at this point, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. And we'll, seeing none, I think safely say we're seeing none, then I move that we adjourn. All in favor?
Night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Darcy.